The chamber of the Galactic Council pulsed with an alien silence, a carefully constructed atmosphere of diplomatic tension that felt more like a pressure cooker than a place of interstellar negotiation. Ambassador Catherine Rodriguez stood alone, a solitary human surrounded by representatives from 16 different alien civilizations, each more exotic and intimidating than the last. Her dress uniform was a crisp midnight blue, tailored to military precision, with subtle quantum-encrypted communication threads woven into the fabric. A single pin, a stylized Earth emblem, glinted on her lakel, its seemingly innocuous design hiding technologies that would make most alien scientists weep with curiosity. The ARC delegates of the Galactic Council regarded her with a mixture of contempt and calculated malevolence. To them, humanity was nothing more than a recent addition to the galactic stage, a species barely out of its technological infancy, presumptuous enough to demand a seat at the most important diplomatic table in known space. Urtak, the massive silicon-based life form representing the Crystalline Confederacy, spoke first. Its voice was a series of grinding clicks and electromagnetic pulses translated through sophisticated linguistic matrices. Humanity continues to overstep its boundaries. Your species has been granted provisional status for less than 3 standard galactic cycles, and yet you propose trade regulations that would fundamentally disrupt established economic structures. Catherine knew the game. Diplomacy was never about the words spoken, but the layers of meaning beneath them. Her research team had spent months analyzing every possible communication strategy, every potential political maneuver. She had come prepared, not just with arguments, but with contingencies. The proposed trade regulations, she responded, her voice calm and measured, are based on comprehensive economic models that demonstrate long-term stability for all participating species. Our data shows a potential increase in interstellar economic output by 17.3% over the next decade. A ripple of dismissive energy passed through the alien delegates. The chlorophyllian representative, a being composed of intricate plant-like structures that seemed to shimmer with internal bioluminescence, let out a sound that might have been laughter in another context. What they didn't know was that Catherine was more than just a diplomat. Her background was a carefully curated blend of political science, quantum mathematics, and military strategy. Every movement, every word was calculated. The trap was already set. The ARC delegates exchanged a series of rapid communication pulses, a language so complex that most human linguists would require decades to begin understanding its nuanced layers of meaning. They had already decided. Diplomacy was never their true intention. Urtak raised a crystalline appendage. Ambassador Rodriguez, the Council has reached a decision. Your proposal is denied. Furthermore, humanity's continued presence in the galactic community will be reconsidered. The words were a death sentence, and they all knew it. What happened next would be remembered throughout human history. As the alien delegates began their ritualistic condemnation, Catherine's eyes remained steady. No fear, no panic, just a cold, calculating awareness that transformed into something far more dangerous. The first tendril of flame appeared almost casually, emerging from hidden energy matrices built into the chamber's architecture. But this was no ordinary fire. Designed by the most advanced xenobiological weapons researchers on Earth, the flames were a living weapon, engineered to cause maximum pain while preserving consciousness. Catherine Rodriguez did not scream. Instead, she smiled. Her final words, transmitted not just through sound, but through quantum-encrypted channels, resonated with a clarity that would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. Remember, we are not your victims. The quantum-encrypted message hidden in her ceremonial pin began its transmission, a digital payload that would become the first strike in humanity's most brutal campaign of vengeance. As the flames consumed her body, something far more significant was being born. Not just a response to violence, but a fundamental transformation of human potential that would forever change the meaning of interstellar conflict. The Galactic Council had just made the most significant mistake in its history. The Lunar Military Research Complex erupted into controlled chaos the moment the transmission ended. Colonel Marcus Chen stood perfectly still, a living statue of contained fury, as the holographic replay of Ambassador Rodriguez's final moments flickered before him. His cybernetic hands, masterpieces of human augmentation technology, slowly crushed the projection, leaving microscopic fractures in the quantum-sensitive display. "Play it again," he commanded. The room fell silent. 12 of the most brilliant minds in human military and scientific circles watched with a mixture of horror and emerging determination. Dr. Aisha Nyong'o, head of Xenobiological Research, leaned forward. Her dark eyes reflected not grief, but a cold, calculating intensity that would have terrified most alien civilizations. "They didn't just kill her," she said, her voice a razor-sharp whisper. "They made a statement. The statement was clear. Humanity was disposable, expandable, a minor footnote in galactic politics to be erased without consequence. They would soon learn otherwise." Colonel Chen activated the first phase of what would become known as Operation Phoenix, a comprehensive mobilization plan that had been theoretical until this moment. Hidden protocols embedded in diplomatic communication systems began to activate. Across every human colony, every research facility, every military installation, a transformation began. In Mumbai, a group of teenage quantum hackers, led by Arjun Mehta, a 19-year-old prodigy who had been kicked out of 3 top-tier universities for dangerous thinking, received an encrypted signal. Their underground network, previously dedicated to breaking corporate firewalls and exploring theoretical quantum communication, now had a purpose. "This is not about revenge," Arjun told his team, his fingers already dancing across a holographic interface that would make most military supercomputers look like children's toys. "This is about evolution." Deep beneath the Atacama Desert, an autonomous research facility that didn't officially exist began its most ambitious project. Genetic engineers, theoretical physicists, and military strategists worked in perfect synchronization. The goal was no longer scientific exploration. It was total technological warfare. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, a distant cousin of the murdered ambassador, reviewed the initial data streams. Her specialty was adaptive biotechnology, a field that merged human genetic potential with cutting-edge technological augmentation. The Galactic Council had just provided her with the most powerful motivation imaginable. "We're going to redefine what it means to be a species," she muttered, reviewing genetic sequencing that would have been considered impossible just hours ago. Across Earth and its colonies, something fundamental was changing. This wasn't just a military response. This was a species-wide transformation. Military budgets were instantly redirected. Research grants became war funding. Every single human resource, from the most advanced quantum computer to the most basic manufacturing plant, began to realign. Agricultural worlds started converting their genetic engineering capabilities into biological research. Mining colonies transformed into weapons factories. The quantum communication network that the teenage hackers were developing would become the nervous system of humanity's response. It was more than a communication tool. It was a weapon of psychological warfare that could simultaneously transmit, receive, and manipulate information across multiple dimensional spectrums. Colonel Chen watched the initial reports flow in. Each data point was a promise. Each technological breakthrough a declaration of war. "They thought we were victims," he said quietly to Dr. Nyong'o. "They have no idea what's coming." In that moment, humanity stopped being a species waiting for galactic permission to exist. It became something else entirely, a force of technological and biological innovation that would reshape the very concept of interstellar conflict. The crucible was heating up, and the galaxy had no idea what was about to be forged. The transformation began with a whisper, then became a roar. In the orbital foundries above the asteroid belt, massive industrial complexes that once manufactured communication satellites and research equipment now hummed with a different purpose. Automated systems worked with a precision that bordered on sentience, converting every available resource into instruments of war. Dr. Wei Liu stood in the central control room of the Shenzhen Quantum Research Facility, watching as entire computing networks reorganized themselves. His team had been working on theoretical quantum communication systems for decades, research that was always considered too radical, too dangerous. Now those same theories became the blueprint for humanity's survival. "We're not just building weapons," he explained to the incoming batch of researchers, most of them barely out of their graduate programs. "We're rewriting the fundamental understanding of technological potential." The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A group of teenage hackers in Mumbai, led by Arjun Mehta, had developed a quantum virus that could do more than just infiltrate alien communication networks. It could literally reshape them. The virus was elegant in its complexity. It didn't just break communication. It rewrote the very mathematical language of alien technological infrastructure. Each iteration learned, adapted, evolved. What would take alien civilizations years to comprehend, human programmers could now accomplish in moments. On Mars, entire agricultural colonies began a radical transformation. Genetic engineers worked alongside weapons designers, creating biological systems that were part technology, part living organism. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's team developed crops that could simultaneously provide nutrition and serve as living communication networks. Plants that could transmit data, adapt to multiple environmental conditions, and potentially serve as distributed computing systems. The Lunar Military Research Complex became the beating heart of this transformation. Every resource, every piece of human knowledge was now directed toward a single purpose. Colonel Marcus Chen oversaw the implementation of Project Phoenix, a comprehensive strategy that went far beyond traditional military thinking. "We're not preparing for a war," he told his senior staff. "We're preparing to fundamentally reshape galactic civilization." Asteroid mining colonies became more than just resource extraction points. They transformed into mobile manufacturing centers, capable of producing entire fleets of autonomous weapon systems. Each asteroid was hollowed out, fitted with quantum drives that could potentially move entire planetary masses. The financial systems of Earth and its colonies underwent an equally radical transformation. Cryptocurrency algorithms developed by distributed networks of programmers became the backbone of a new economic warfare strategy. Money was no longer just a medium of exchange. It became a weapon, a communication system, a method of psychological manipulation. In the research facilities of Sao Paulo, a team of biotechnologists, led by Dr. Mariana Santos, developed what would become known as adaptive nano-augmentation systems. These were not just technological enhancements, they were a complete reimagining of the human body's potential. Soldiers could now potentially adapt their physical and cognitive capabilities in real time, responding to environmental challenges with unprecedented speed. The most terrifying aspect of humanity's transformation was its speed. What would have taken other civilizations centuries was accomplished in weeks. Every human resource, from the most advanced quantum computer to the most basic manufacturing plant, began to realign with a singular, terrifying purpose. The Galactic Council had attempted to burn humanity. Instead, they had lit the fuse of a technological revolution that would reshape known space forever. Humanity was no longer just preparing for war. Humanity was becoming war itself. The first attack came without warning, a symphony of destruction that defied every known principle of warfare. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance, her hand steady on the quantum adaptive command interface. Named after her executed cousin, the ambassador, the ship was more than a military vessel. It was a statement. Every system, from its quantum drive to its communication arrays, had been redesigned to be an unpredictable weapon. Target acquisition complete, her AI tactical assistant reported. The voice was deliberately modulated, part human, part machine, entirely terrifying. The target was the primary communication hub of the Crystalline Confederacy, the alien civilization most responsible for Ambassador Rodriguez's murder. But this wasn't going to be a simple military strike. This was going to be a psychological evisceration. As the first wave of attacks began, the human strategy became horrifyingly clear. They weren't just destroying infrastructure, they were systematically dismantling entire communication ecosystems. The quantum virus developed by Arjun Mehta's team in Mumbai did more than infiltrate alien networks. It rewrote them. Each transmission became a potential weapon, each communication channel a vector for psychological warfare. Alien communication systems began to report false information, create internal conflicts, and generate cascading system failures. On the Chlorophyllian homeworld, their intricate neural network, a planet-wide communication system that had existed for millennia, suddenly began to turn against itself. Communication nodes started reporting contradictory information. Strategic defense systems received conflicting commands. The very fabric of their technological infrastructure began to unravel. Broadcast mode, Captain Rodriguez commanded. The ship's communication arrays lit up, but this was no ordinary transmission. Every frequency, every possible communication channel was simultaneously hijacked. The aliens would not just be attacked, they would be forced to watch. Holographic displays across multiple star systems began showing the same image. Ambassador Catherine Rodriguez's final moments. But this was no simple replay. The quantum adaptive systems modified the transmission in real time, creating a psychological weapon that was simultaneously a memorial, a threat, and a declaration of war. Dr. Aisha Nyong'o's biological warfare teams had been busy. The first wave of attacks included carefully engineered viral vectors that could penetrate the most complex alien immune systems. These weren't just biological weapons, they were adaptive systems that could modify themselves in real time, learning and evolving with each interaction. On the Yurtak silicon-based homeworld, entire communication centers began to crystallize and decay. The very materials their civilization depended on started to break down at a molecular level, a result of nanoscale technologies that could literally alter atomic structures. Colonel Marcus Chen watched the initial reports from the Lunar Military Research Complex. Each data point was a confirmation of humanity's transformation. This wasn't just a military response. This was a complete reimagining of conflict itself. "They thought we were victims," he muttered, watching the cascading system failures across alien territories. "They have no idea what's coming." The human strike teams were more than military units. They were living weapons, augmented with technologies that blurred the line between biological organism and adaptive combat system. Each soldier carried not just weapons, but entire communication and adaptation networks. As the first phase of the attack concluded, something became terrifyingly clear. Humanity was no longer fighting a conventional war. They were conducting a total systemic deconstruction of alien civilization. The message was simple and absolute. You do not burn our diplomats. You do not consider us disposable. We are humanity, and we are coming. The human approach to psychological warfare was nothing short of weaponized evolution. Dr. Zara Okik stood at the center of the Global Cognitive Warfare Research Facility, a complex hidden beneath the Nigerian desert that didn't exist on any official map. Her team was comprised of the most dangerous minds humanity could assemble: linguists, neuroscientists, quantum communication experts, and AI specialists who saw human consciousness as the ultimate adaptive system. "We're not just fighting a war," she told her team during their daily briefing. "We're conducting the most comprehensive psychological deconstruction in galactic history." The weapon they were developing was beyond anything the Galactic Council could comprehend. It wasn't a traditional communication system. It was a living, breathing psychological assault that could adapt in real time to alien cognitive structures. Each transmission was a multi-layered attack. The quantum adaptive communication systems developed by Arjun Mehta's team in Mumbai could do more than just send messages. They could literally reshape the cognitive processing of entire alien civilizations. On the Chlorophyllian homeworld, the first wave of psychological warfare began subtly, Communication networks started receiving transmissions that were simultaneously true, false, and something entirely beyond traditional logic. These weren't just messages, they were cognitive viruses designed to create fundamental fractures in alien thought processes. The holographic replays of Ambassador Rodriguez's execution became something far more sinister. Each broadcast was subtly modified, using advanced neural mapping technologies that could exploit the specific psychological vulnerabilities of different alien species. For the silicon-based crystalline confederacy, the transmission became a mathematical paradox that literally caused their communication networks to break down. For the empathetic chlorophyllians, it became a message of such profound emotional complexity that it triggered systemic psychological collapse. Colonel Marcus Chen oversaw the operation from the Lunar Military Research Complex. This was warfare beyond physical destruction. This was the complete psychological dismantling of an entire civilization's ability to function. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's biotechnology team had developed communication vectors that were part biological weapon, part information system. These weren't just viruses. They were adaptive cognitive parasites that could reshape the very way alien civilizations processed information. The teenage hackers from Mumbai had become something more than a research team. They were now the front line of a new kind of warfare. Arjun Mehta and his team could infiltrate alien communication networks with such precision that they could make entire planetary defense systems believe they were under attack from multiple directions simultaneously. Information is no longer just a weapon, Arjun explained to his team. It's a living ecosystem that we can grow, modify, and weaponize. The most terrifying aspect of humanity's psychological warfare was its unpredictability. Traditional alien defense systems relied on pattern recognition, on the ability to predict and counter threats. Humanity had become fundamentally unpredictable, a civilization that could reshape its entire approach to conflict in moments. On the Yurtak homeworld, communication centers began to receive transmissions that defied logical analysis. Some messages contained mathematical proofs that simultaneously proved and disproved fundamental scientific principles. Others were emotional narratives so complex that they caused systemic cognitive breakdowns. Dr. Zara O'Keefe watched the initial reports with a sense of cold satisfaction. This wasn't just about revenge. This was about demonstrating a fundamental truth about human potential. We are not just a species, she muttered, watching the cascading psychological failures across alien territories. We are an adaptive system that turns destruction into evolution. The Galactic Council had attempted to burn humanity. Instead, they had unleashed a psychological weapon beyond their wildest nightmares. The breakthrough came at 3:47 Greenwich Mean Time, in a research facility that didn't officially exist. Dr. Wai Lu's hands trembled slightly as the quantum entanglement matrix stabilized. What his team had just achieved would rewrite every fundamental understanding of physics, communication, and technological potential. This wasn't just a scientific discovery. It was a weapon that would reshape the entire concept of interstellar conflict. The facility, buried beneath the Gobi Desert, represented the culmination of humanity's most radical scientific efforts. Every researcher here had been selected not just for their brilliance, but for their ability to think beyond established paradigms. They were the ones who had been called crazy, dismissed, pushed to the margins of traditional scientific communities. Now, they were humanity's most dangerous weapon. The quantum communication system they had developed could do more than transmit information. It could literally fold space-time, creating communication channels that existed simultaneously across multiple dimensional spectrums. What the Galactic Council understood as faster-than-light communication was primitive compared to this. We're not just sending messages, Dr. Liu explained to the small group of military and scientific leaders gathered to witness the breakthrough. We're creating communication networks that can exist in multiple states simultaneously. Information that can be everywhere and nowhere. True and false, sent and received before it's even conceived. Colonel Marcus Chen understood the implications immediately. This wasn't just a technological advancement. This was a fundamental reimagining of how information could exist. The first test came with brutal efficiency. A quantum communication packet was transmitted to a research station orbiting Jupiter. But it didn't just arrive at its destination. It arrived before it was sent, after it was received, and in multiple variations simultaneously. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's biotechnology team had been working in parallel. Their breakthrough merged quantum communication with adaptive biological systems. The human body was no longer just a biological entity. It became a living, adaptive communication network. Soldiers could now receive information through neural interfaces that processed data faster than traditional computing systems could even register its existence. Augmentations became more than technological enhancements. They were living, adaptive systems that could modify themselves in real time. On Mars, entire agricultural colonies were transformed into distributed computing networks. Crops became more than just food sources. They were living communication systems that could process and transmit information across planetary distances. Arjun Mehta and his team of quantum hackers had developed communication viruses that could literally reshape the fundamental mathematical languages of alien technological infrastructure. Each transmission was a potential weapon, each communication channel a vector for total system deconstruction. The most terrifying aspect was the speed of development. What would have taken other civilizations centuries was accomplished in weeks. Every human resource, from the most advanced quantum computer to the most basic manufacturing plant, was now part of a total, adaptive system. Dr. Zara O'Keefe's psychological warfare team integrated these technological breakthroughs into their communication strategies. They could now create information weapons that could literally cause cognitive breakdown in alien species, transmitting messages that existed in multiple states of logical possibility. "We are rewriting the fundamental understanding of technological potential," Dr. Liu said, watching the quantum communication matrix stabilize. The Galactic Council had attempted to marginalize humanity. Instead, they had unleashed a technological revolution that would forever change the understanding of what was possible. Humanity was no longer just advancing. Humanity was becoming the future itself. The final battle was never going to be about weapons. It was about existence itself. The combined fleet of the Galactic Council assembled what they believed was an insurmountable force. Thousands of ships spanning multiple technological generations, representing 16 different civilizations, converged on the solar system. They expected to find a cornered, desperate humanity. Instead, they found something entirely beyond their comprehension. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance, her augmented neural interface pulsing with information that flowed faster than thought. Around her, the ship was less a machine and more a living organism, adaptive, responsive, almost sentient. "They still don't understand," she said quietly to her AI tactical coordinator. The first wave of the alien assault was textbook military strategy. Massive energy weapons, coordinated attack patterns, overwhelming force. What they didn't realize was that humanity had been preparing for something far more fundamental than a traditional battle. Dr. Wai Lu's quantum communication systems transformed the entire solar system into a single, massive defensive network. Asteroids became weapon platforms. Planetary defense systems could redistribute energy and computational resources faster than the alien targeting systems could even register a threat. Arjun Mehta's team had turned the entire conflict into a living communication battlefield. Each transmission was a weapon. Each moment of contact was an opportunity for cognitive infiltration. The alien ships began to experience impossible failures. Communication networks collapsed. Targeting systems reported contradictory information. Some ships found their own weapons turning against them, while others experienced complete systems failure that defied all logical explanation. Dr. Zara O'Keefe's psychological warfare team had prepared something beyond traditional warfare. The transmissions sent to the alien fleet were not just messages. They were cognitive viruses designed to create fundamental existential confusion. Alien commanders watched in horror as their most advanced technologies became useless. Mathematical certainties became paradoxes. Logical systems broke down. The very fabric of their understanding of conflict was being systematically dismantled. The Chlorophyllian fleet found their bio-integrated systems literally turning against themselves. The silicon-based ships of the Crystalline Confederacy experienced molecular destabilization that defied all known physical laws. Each alien civilization discovered that humanity had studied them not just as enemies, but as complex systems to be comprehensively understood and dismantled. Colonel Marcus Chen oversaw the operation from the Lunar Military Research Complex. This wasn't just a battle, it was a comprehensive deconstruction of galactic power structures. "We're not just fighting," he told his senior staff. "We're demonstrating a fundamental truth about existence." The most terrifying weapon was humanity's fundamental unpredictability. Traditional military strategies relied on pattern recognition, on the ability to anticipate and counter threats. Humanity had become something else entirely, a civilization that could reshape its entire approach to conflict in moments. As the battle progressed, it became clear that humanity was fighting a war on multiple levels simultaneously. Physical combat, psychological warfare, technological infiltration. These were merely surface-level manifestations of a much deeper conflict. The Galactic Council had attempted to burn humanity. They had instead ignited a revolution that would reshape the fundamental understanding of what it meant to be an advanced civilization. In the cold vacuum of space, humanity was writing a new definition of survival. Not as victims, not as survivors, but as the architects of a new galactic order. The aftermath was not a celebration, it was a transformation. Humanity stood at the center of a completely restructured galactic civilization, not as conquerors, but as architects of a new reality. The remaining alien civilizations gathered in what was once the Galactic Council chambers, now a human-controlled facility that defied every previous understanding of diplomatic space. Colonel Marcus Chen and Dr. Zora O'Keefe stood at the center of the negotiation chamber, their presence alone a statement of unprecedented power. Around them, representatives from the surviving alien civilizations sat, or in some cases, suspended, floated, or existed in forms that barely resemble traditional life. "This is not about punishment," Marcus began, his voice carried through quantum communication systems that translated meaning before words. "This is about fundamental restructuring." The terms were both simple and incomprehensible to the alien delegates. Humanity was not seeking territory, resources, or traditional forms of galactic dominance. Instead, they were demanding a complete reimagining of interstellar cooperation. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's biotechnology research became the foundation of a new galactic infrastructure. Communication systems that could bridge biological, technological, and cognitive differences became mandatory for all civilizations. The adaptive technologies developed during the conflict would now be shared, a forced evolution that would transform every participating species. Arjun Mehta and his team of quantum communication experts had developed systems that could literally allow different species to communicate beyond traditional linguistic barriers. It wasn't translation, it was a fundamental sharing of cognitive experience. The Chlorophyllian representatives discovered that their entire biological communication network could be integrated into a larger, more complex system. The silicon-based Crystalline Confederacy found their rigid computational structures could become adaptive, living networks. Survival is no longer about individual species, Dr. Zora O'Keefe explained. It's about collective adaptation. Each civilization was given a choice: integrate or isolate. Isolation meant technological and communicative death. Integration meant a fundamental transformation that would challenge every previous understanding of individual and collective existence. The most radical change came from the quantum communication technologies developed by Dr. Y. Liu. Information could now exist in multiple states simultaneously. Conflict resolution became a mathematical and cognitive process that went beyond traditional diplomacy. Ambassador Catherine Rodriguez, remembered through every transmission, every adaptive system, had become more than a martyr. She was the symbol of a fundamental transformation. The human approach was not about domination. It was about forcing evolution. Entire planetary systems were redesigned. Communication networks became living, adaptive organisms. Biological and technological boundaries disappeared. What was once considered impossible became the new standard. Some alien civilizations resisted. They were quickly demonstrated the futility of their position, not through violence, but through a comprehensive demonstration of technological and cognitive superiority that made resistance mathematically impossible. Dr. Elena Rodriguez looked out over the redesigned diplomatic chamber. The walls were no longer static. They were adaptive surfaces that could communicate, process, and respond. Each surface was a potential communication channel, each moment a potential point of collective understanding. "We are not conquerors," Marcus Chen said in his final address to the gathered civilizations. "We are the next stage of galactic development." The Galactic Council had attempted to burn humanity. Instead, humanity had rewritten the fundamental code of galactic civilization, not with weapons, but with the most dangerous thing in existence: potential.